Hi, welcome to Unit 4, Chapter 7 Notes. In this chapter is about the recruiting interview. And the chapter is presented from the recruiter's viewpoint, but I'm going to flip that and we're going to look at it from the job applicant perspective, or you as the job applicant. So I pulled out a few highlights to talk about in this chapter. So the first thing that recruiters do is, of course, they try and find qualified applicants because that's their main job, is to find people who are qualified and to do a continual search for qualified applicants, to keep a database, so to speak, of applicants. So of course they're going to look at local universities. So what are the higher educational facilities around them? So that could be local universities, it could be community colleges, it could be technical schools. They're looking for students who have completed internships. That's a great way to work into a job. And they also network with other recruiters and people that they know, contacts that they have, to find qualified applicants. Job fairs, that's another great place where they set up and talk to people who come through their job booth and potentially screen people for jobs. And then internet job sites, of course, they have, I'm sure you guys have uploaded your resume to an internet job site before, or thought about it at least. And so recruiters find qualified applicants through internet job sites. These are just a few of the ways that recruiters find applicants. Of course, there are other ways, like staffing firms. One thing I wanted to point out in this chapter is, before you as a job applicant go to a job interview, be sure that you're familiar with Equal Employment Opportunity Laws, or EEO laws. These are on page 131 and 132 of your textbook, and just familiarize yourself with these laws before you interview for jobs, such as the Equal Pay Act, the Age Discrimination in Employment, pregnancy discrimination. There are several, but just read through a recap on these. And I believe I have a discussion board where we go over some of the illegal questions that employers ask, which leads me to my next point. So you have bona fide occupational qualification questions. These are questions or information in which a recruiter gathers information about an applicant's work experiences, training, education skills, conviction records, etc., that have a direct bearing on being able to perform a job. So, for example, if a job requires that you stand for a long period of time, do you have the physical attributes or physical ability to be able to do that? That would be a bona fide question that a recruiter could ask. Questions that are outside of these categories that I mentioned above are usually illegal, and they include questions about gender preference, your age, race, religion, relationship status, sexual orientation, disabilities, and more. So any kind of question that tries to get at, are you married? Do you have children? Those are illegal questions. So I talked about where recruiters look for applicants, but some of the materials that they, after they find qualified applicants, that they look for are application forms, cover letters, resumes, letters of recommendation. The first four. So of these four, we have an assignment on writing a cover letter and a resume that we're going to do and submit to the Career Development Office or department at MTSU. And you guys are going to do that, and you're going to get feedback really great feedback on writing effective cover letters and resumes. And I would advise you to use that feedback to, edit your cover letter or your resume, because it will be very valuable for you as you go out onto the job market. Letters of recommendation and references. Letters of recommendation are a little less common, but references always, they will either ask for a personal reference or a professional reference. And then another way to obtain information on applicants is the use of standardized tests. These are on page 138 in your textbook. And I'm not going to go through the definition of all of these, but definitely familiarize yourself with these type of tests so that you can prepare in advance for the recruiter interview. And really, it's just, again, it's about being prepared. It's about practicing. It's about being confident. The aptitude test, I've definitely taken an aptitude test to see what type of skills my strongest skills are. Personality test, you know how we did, or no, not in this class, but maybe you've done a Myers-Briggs test before that tells you a personality type, or you've done another type of test that gives you a personality type and gives you general characteristics of your personality. Basic skills. For example, my son applied for a job delivering pizza, and they gave him a basic math test to see if he could count money. So that varies depending on the job. Honesty tests and integrity interviews are very similar. The difference is an honesty test is like a test that you take on a computer or a piece of paper, and an integrity interview is face-to-face, where a recruiter tries to assess your honesty or integrity. Now, recruiters have 3 or 4 generations that they recruit from nowadays. Baby boomers, of course, being the oldest, those born between 1945 and 1964. And here are some characteristics of baby boomers, Generation X, and millennials that I found on the Society for Human Resource Management, which is a great website, by the way. So boomers, they value loyalty, financial security, stability, and a positive work ethic. They have a need to contribute to an organization while mentoring newer generations. They value loyalty, financial security, stability in an organization. That's what they're looking for. So if a recruiter is trying to find applicants or finds applicants who are baby boomers, they know that these are some characteristics of this generation. Generation X, they find value in organizations that are stable and provide flexibility and definitely promote a work-life balance. Money, stocks, incentives are all benefits or attractors for this group. Generation Y or millennials are those born between 1980 and 2000. And the mark here is that they became young adults around 2000, the millennial. They like being recognized for individual contributions, and they like having a voice in decision and ideas in the organization. For millennials, work needs to be productive and meaningful, not grunt work. Probably you could say that about every generation, right? No grunt work. They don't care about seeking longevity or staying with one organization for their entire work life, like baby boomers do in the generation before them, the traditional or silent generation. They're big on technology because the world is all about information sharing now. And they like flexibility in all aspects of work. So that would include flexibility in time, work-life balance, dress, etc. Google is a really great example of an organization that heavily recruits millennials. And you see my I've cited the website that I found this information on if you want to go look at it. Like I said, it's a great website. All right, so recruiters use a few different ways to interview applicants, and you may have experienced these as a job applicant, but I just want to review these. So a chain format that occurs when an applicant comes for a job interview and a recruiter talks with an applicant for a little bit and then passes the applicant along to a second recruiter. And you may even, as a job applicant, talk to 3 people. So that can be a little overwhelming. A panel can be composed of different organizational members that represent different areas of the organization, or it could be composed of organizational members that divide the applicant's credentials and ask different questions about credentials. So, for example, maybe they'll ask questions about education or experience, or ask the type of hypothetical questions. So a chain format or a panel. Being interviewed by a panel is a little overwhelming if you've ever been through that process. I've been interviewed by a few panels, and it's a little overwhelming. All right, so these are some of the traditional questions that you should be prepared for as a job applicant. So a recruiter might ask you, why are you interested in this organization? What kind of general or specific work experience do you have that will be valuable to this organization? What kind of experience have you had with teamwork? They'll ask you to talk more about your education and your training. They may want to know what your career goals are, and then what type of salary or benefits you're looking for. So these are definitely basic foundational questions to be prepared for any job interview. And then depending on the position that you're looking for, you would have more specific questions. But you can pretty much always count on these type of questions and prepare yourself for them by actually writing your answers and then practicing them out loud, talking through them. So here's some questions that or type of questions that recruiters like to ask. Behavior-based, critical incident questions, and hypothetical questions. And the behavior-based questions just ask applicants about their past work experiences and what they've done in a specific situation. A critical incident question is when a recruiter asks an applicant about actual or past experiences that have happened at the recruiter's organization or an organization that the recruiter represents, and how the applicant would handle the incident. So it could be something that is integrity based, or it could be a question about conflict that's happened at the organization, and the recruiter would ask you how you would handle that conflict, or how you would handle motivating other people around you. Hypothetical questions are those if or suppose questions, and they're not behavior-based or critical incidents, but they're questions that recruiters like to ask that are based on realistic situations. So, for example, if your company suddenly announced the closing of your facility by January 1st, what would you do? Okay, most people would say panic, but they would want an answer about how you would plan for the upcoming job layoff or termination. So these are also some good questions to think about beforehand and to actually practice your answers for. All right, this was a short lecture. I know you're glad. Most of them have been over 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Up next in Chapter 8, we're going to be looking at the employment interview, and we're going to be talking about how to prepare for the interview, how to assess the type of job that you're interested in, and how to write effective cover letters and resumes. All right, this is the end of the lecture.